Whittaker Weekly is a 3-episode anime discussion podcast where two brothers discuss a show of their choice. The show can be anything from a current season flop to a decades-old classic. What are they going to talk about next? Who knows? They sure don't.
I'm Lee.
And this is Whittaker Weekly. Let's get right into it. For the news this week, couple of things that I'm pretty excited about. First is the first poster for the Konosuba movie has been released.
Yes.
Have you seen it?
I've seen the poster, yes.
Yeah. Megumin's looking fairly...
Older?
Older.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe a year or two.
Yeah, she looks a lot older. Well, it could just be because it's a different company who's doing it than the show.
Sure.
Than did the show. But it could also be that it takes place later on. I'm not quite sure. I haven't looked into the plot.
Right.
Second bit of news is also Konosuba related. They have announced a dungeon crawler that for Konosuba, and it's going to be released for the PS4 and the PS Vita. I have no idea if it's going to be released here in the States. But it's a throwback to the old school first-person view dungeon crawlers where you're just kind of going through a dungeon, turning left and right, and you just see the dungeon in front of you. And then when it gets to combat, it's, again, like old-school Dragon Quest combat, where you see the monsters and you see your character's stats on the bottom of the screen.
Yeah, didn't Earthbound do that too?
Earthbound does it. Dragon Quest still, well, you have the option to do classic view in Dragon Quest 11. That's what it is, Dragon Quest 11. No. Is it 12? I think it's 12. Gosh, I can't remember.
I'm pretty sure it's 11. But I haven't played a Dragon Quest since 3.
Okay, it's probably 11. You should get your Dragon Quest 11 because it's phenomenal.
Okay.
Anyway, it's yeah, and one of the great things is in the trailer. It shows Megumin casting Explosion, and there's a massive fireball that just explodes and destroys the monsters in front of her. But then as soon as she casts it, the camera pans down and zooms on her MP, and it's already at 0. So
it's authentic.
It's authentic. She has one spell a day. So you want to make sure you save Megumin for when you absolutely need her.
Yes.
But while I was looking for the link to put on our website for this bit of news, I learned that there was actually another Konosuba game that was released about a year ago. That was a visual novel. And visual novel, for those of you who don't know what those are video games that they have. It's pretty much branching story paths.
It's kind of a choose your own adventure.
Yeah.
Usually depicting a character or two on the screen and a lot of text dialogue. It's a novel. It's a lot of reading.
That's what the Fate series started as.
Okay.
A visual novel.
But there's some pretty popular ones these days, like Doki Doki Literature Club.
Yep, that's a visual novel, all right. But anyway, in this one, Kazuma finds a ring, and that ring, and he puts the ring on, but the ring happens to be cursed.
Of course,
and the curse is that he randomly has women's panties on him.
On his person.
Without using his steal ability like he does in the show.
Right.
He just has panties on him, and he's got to try to find out who these panties belong to. In order for him to get the curse undone, it costs 300 million of their dollars. So they have to go on quests and do odd jobs to earn money so Kazuma can get this ring off of him. Honestly, that sounds more delightful to me than the dungeon crawler.
That sounds like one of the episodes of the show, actually.
Yeah.
That sounds legit like an episode of the show.
And I would love, if there's a translated version of it, maybe I should try to see if I can find one. But if not, I can always just import it for the PS4, because the PS4, at least for their games, they're region free. So, anyway, and I believe all the voice actors from the show are back, same for the movie and stuff. So it should be just like meeting old friends again. Might be a little bit getting used to the new animation style for the movie, but I'm excited for it. I'm really excited for it.
We're both looking forward to it.
And something that I'm personally really excited about. Did you ever play Warhammer Quest?
Warhammer Quest. I don't think I did.
It was...
I played the Tabletop Fantasy. I played Warhammer Blood Bowl. I played Battlefleet Gothic. And I've seen 40K played, but I've never played it. So.
Okay. Do you remember? Well, we played Battlefleet Gothic together for a little bit. Though our battles never really went anywhere because every time we got to the real meat of the battle, dinner was called and we were forced to clean off the table. Anyway. Anyway, our shoot, what am I trying to say here? Our so Warhammer Quest. Do you remember the board game Heroes Quest?
Yes.
Okay. Imagine Heroes Quest only it's a more complex version where you go. There's a rule book about this thick, about half an inch thick or so, with quests that you can undertake and rules for going to visiting town. Your characters can go from level 1 to level 10, and you get new abilities and things. As you buy levels, you go on adventures, earn gold, and then you buy levels from that gold.
Okay.
What you would do is you would pick a quest what you wanted to do, but there was no map for the quest inside the book. The way the game worked is that you had a deck of cards, and you would draw that card, and that card would have an image associated with a certain tile, and that tile you would place in front of you. And then you'd go into that room and explore the room, and you could run into monsters, find treasure, do all sorts of things in it.
So it was a randomly generated...
Yeah, my friends and I, back in high school, we played it all the time. Like, I didn't play Dungeons & Dragons very much in high school. No. I played maybe 5 or 6 games my entire time throughout high school. But we played a ton of Warhammer Quest. It was just a fantastic game. And we... The reason I'm bringing this up is because there is now supposed to be released later on this year a 40K version of Warhammer Quest that is called the Blackstone Fortress. Blackstone Fortress is a chaos battle fleet, a battleship. And you go exploring this, and you gain levels and things like that as well. And apparently they have one for they kind of have a steampunk world now. They've kind of dropped fantasy from their board games or from their tabletop stuff, but they have now like Age of Sigma or Sigmar, and that's kind of a steampunk-esque world. And they've got that as well as a board game, a quest version of that. These board games are not cheap. Okay, they're about $150 a piece, but they are more than worth it.
Right. Now, how much was that? What was it? You had a huge box for it.
Descent?
No, Descent. There's that one, but the other one was based on a video game series.
Dark Souls.
Dark Souls. How much did the Dark Souls board game cost you?
I got that on sale, so it was only $60 for me.
But that was on sale.
That was on sale. I believe it came out at $120.
Okay.
So, but
and then Descent. How much did that run you? Do you think?
Oh, that was that was a board game that also went for $120. But I got it at a place that had discount board games.
Right.
They're no longer around, unfortunately. But it only cost me about $80 to pick it up, and then I spent $20 on an expansion for it. So.
Okay.
All right. That's it for the news. Unless did we want to talk about Diablo Immortal and kind of the explosion that's had? I mean, not much to say about it for us. We're like, I love Diablo 1, 2, and 3. Diablo Immortal was not made for me. I'll just go ahead and end it with that.
Right.
I play games on my cell phone. I enjoy playing games on my cell phone. Diablo is not the kind of game that I want to play on a cell phone.
No, Diablo's... Okay. I bought Final Fantasy 2 or 4 for the iPad. Because it was available. And I thought, oh, hey, cool. And $15 wasn't much for me at the time. But I don't ever get to sit down and play it. Mobile games aren't great for grinding type games and leveling games where you're doing that. It's mobile is casual. That's, I mean, they really... The one big anomaly from that formula has been Pokemon Go. And a lot of marketers are trying to capitalize on figure out what was it about Pokemon Go that was so successful. So a lot of marketers are trying to get teams of people to replicate its success, and I'm afraid the marketing department is taking control of Blizzard and not the.
It's. The
And
reason
instead
it
of
was
the developers.
free advice.
Yeah.
The reason it was popular is because it's Pokemon.
It's true. That is a huge part of it. Yes.
Yeah, it's Pokemon. That's why it was successful. If it was anything else, it wouldn't have been anywhere near as successful. People have been asking for a Pokemon game for a decade on mobile devices.
Yes.
And they finally got it.
Yeah.
That's why it was successful. Nobody's asking for Diablo on mobile.
Nobody's asking for it.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody wanted it. And, if they made it... And people are going to download it. People are going to buy it. People are going to play it.
Oh, yeah, people will.
But you don't make that your final announcement at BlizzCon. People who go to BlizzCon are the people who paid $3,000 to get the best PC that they can.
Mm-hmm.
Those are the people who attend BlizzCon. People who attend BlizzCon don't fork over the money to go because their most technologically advanced platform is their phone.
Mm-hmm. I mean, if I think about it, really, mine is my phone. I mean, I've got a really nice cell phone.
Yeah.
That being said, I still play more games on my PS4 than I do on my cell phone, and same with my Switch. If I'm on the go, I take my Switch with me.
Yeah. But the problem is, and you showed me that rant earlier, but I've heard other people explain. This is what happens when marketers make decisions instead of developers.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, and
when developers lose touch, and when you get into developing, you end up putting in like 80-hour days, 80-hour weeks.
Mm-hmm. I say 80-hour days. That's not physically possible.
No, but it's expected.
But it's expected. We expect you to put in 180 hours a week. There's only 172 hours in a week. We expect your family to chip in some too. That's from a Dilbert
classic Dilbert.
That's a Dilbert comic from back in the day.
Classic Dilbert. It's just what happens when big companies lose touch with their audience.
Mm-hmm.
It happened to Blockbuster when they didn't pay attention to market trends.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yep.
And
all right.
So there's no such thing as a business that's too big to fail.
Yeah, I know.
So if Blizzard doesn't find a way of turning this around and realizing that they're creating a PR nightmare for themselves,
they're going to still make millions simply because outside of America, like even in America, the mobile market is just huge, and there's plenty of people who are still going to play it. But it may get to a point where I decide to go ahead and give it a try. But honestly, I'm hoping to get Diablo 3 for the Switch here in the near future.
Yeah.
So I don't really see the point of playing it on my cell phone when I'm going to be playing it on my Switch.
Right.
Okay, anyway, enough of that. We don't want anybody to accuse us of being toxic gamers for having a discussion about a game. So we're going to go ahead and move from the news to 3 episodes in. And what did we watch this week?
This week we watched RErideD, Derrida Who Leaps Through Time.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I was noticing something about the spelling and pronunciation of that title.
Mm-hmm.
And you notice if you read the capital letters backwards and then the lowercase letters forwards, you have the main character's name.
Oh. Okay.
So I'm wondering if that's kind of a play on how, the timeline and the overarching narrative plays out a bit, because they got some
maybe
timeline stuff happening. Okay, so the synopsis was, in 2050, engineer Derrida Yvain is famous for his contributions to autonomous machine DZ at his father's company, Rebuild. But when he and his colleague Nathan discover a dangerous flaw in their creation, their warnings go ignored. The next day, after Nathan's daughter Mage's birthday, I want to pronounce it Mage, but I know it's wrong.
Magi is how they were saying it in the show. Mm-hmm.
But it's spelled Mage.
It is. It's spelled Mage, but they say Magi.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
The next day, after Nathan's daughter Maji's birthday party, the group barely escapes an attack by unknown forces, leading to Derrida's unwitting captivity in cryogenic stasis. 10 years later, he emerges in a world at war with the mechanical life forms he helped create. Now he fights to survive his nightmare future to make good his promise to, quote, take care of Magi.
All right, let's go ahead and get right into it. The episode starts off with a girl being painted. A girl in a red dress being painted by somebody.
Yes.
And she has fallen asleep, and she wakes up and she says, "Oh, I'm so sorry, I fell asleep." And this voice, which is a very digitized voice, says, "It's okay, don't worry about it." And she says, "Oh, I have to go meet him." And then the voice says, "Oh, well, you better get going." And she says, "Oh, it's okay. Or are you late? Is he already waiting for you?" And she says, "Oh, don't worry about it. He's always late." And then she runs off, and she changes from this red dress that she was wearing while she was being painted into a white outfit. Mm-hmm. And she opens up the door, and in the door we see the outline of the protagonist.
Right.
And then it cuts back to the protagonist in a lab.
Yes.
And he is talking with his he's talking with his friend Nathan.
Right.
And they're talking about where they're talking about a bug that they've uncovered in the new software for the automatas, which are a series of robots that now pretty much, I don't want to say inhabit the world, but pretty much everybody in the world has a robot companion.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. It's as common as a cell phone these days.
Mm-hmm.
Looking forward to that future.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, overall, the first episode kind of moves slow.
It moves really slow, the first episode.
I mean, I felt that I kind of got the feeling that it had the same pacing issues as the first half of Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. It just, they spent a lot of time, they're spending a lot of time setting up what to expect later.
Okay, yeah.
But, as a child watching Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, you're always waiting for when they finally get to the Chocolate Factory, which is, 45 minutes into the movie?
I don't remember.
But it feels like it takes a while.
Do you mean the remake or the original?
The original. I'm talking about the Gene Wilder original.
So isn't that Charlie in the Chocolate Factory?
No, Charlie in the Chocolate Factory is the remake.
That's right. I apologize. I keep getting those names mixed up.
It's because Gene Wilder was the main character. They changed the title of the book to Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. But the book's name is Charlie, and technically Tim Burton's adaptation was more faithful to the book.
It's a lot more faithful to the book.
Yes. Whereas Gene Wilder's adaptation was a Gene Wilder movie.
Yep. Though that's so weird to say that he's the main character, because as you're watching the movie, he's not. It's obvious.
It is about Charlie.
It's totally about Charlie. The entire thing revolves around Charlie. Yeah. He is definitely the protagonist.
Well, he's absolutely the protagonist, but he doesn't. It's just one of those situations. Well, we're delving into something.
Yeah, let's not worry about that. That's completely different. So, yeah, I agree with you. Episode 1 felt very, very slow. Not a lot happens.
That's kind of why we do a 3-episode in review, because you can't just judge the whole of it on the first episode.
But long story short, they talk to the owner of the company by the name of Andre. And they say, look, there's this fatal flaw. If the same command is issued at the exact same time to 10,000 of these units, they'll go haywire.
Yeah.
We have to fix this. And he's like, no, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. Like robot assistant over there, delete the last half hour of what you've just heard.
As if such an order would ever be made.
Yeah.
Well, there's rumors about them being used for military purpose.
Mm-hmm. And and so you could see the exact kind of issues that would raise if these robots were used for military purposes. But he refuses to issue a recall, saying that our robots are famous worldwide. We've never had to issue a major recall. People trust us. If we issue a recall now, then we'll lose that trust. As opposed to what happens if something does go wrong.
Yeah, he's spouting a lot of what you'd expect a businessman to spout, but really, if he wasn't corrupt, he would have done something.
Yeah. Yeah, but anyways, the two scientists go and they decide that they're going to do something about it. And Derrida agrees to Nathan, and Nathan are talking, and Derrida says that I'm going to meet with my dad tomorrow, but he's hesitant about it. And then we cut to the next day, and he has a meeting with his dad.
Right.
Oh wait, no. Is the birthday party first or?
No, the meeting with his dad is first. The birthday party second.
Okay, so he goes and he meets with his dad, and his dad is this super famous scientist who made the robots. And he says, "Son, that's incredible that you discovered that error." And while he's praising him, Derrida gets pissed and, starts shouting at his dad saying, enough, enough is enough. And I'm just like, okay, there's obviously some wounds here from Derrida's side.
Yeah.
Or they're trying to create dramatic tension here. Personally, I didn't feel any. I'm just like, Derrida's just acting like a brat right now. Especially since his dad legitimately just complimented him on finding this flaw that's really, really bad. But Derrida gives him a key, a little digital key.
Yeah, I was wondering if I missed something in that scene.
No, you didn't. It's just they rushed it.
Okay.
They didn't really give time to really develop the animosity between the two. I didn't feel any animosity from the dad at all. It was 100% coming from Derrida, in my point of view. But anyway, Derrida hands his dad a little, like, not USB, but their version of a USB drive, like a little software key.
It was very thin, so it more reminded me of an SD card, like a long SD card.
Long SD card. And he says that when they say that, because these robots have already been deployed, the only way to update their software is to do it manually, which is why they have this key. And this key needs to unlock them so they can unlock the programming so they can update it. And then after that, he goes to the birthday party.
Yes.
And we meet Maji and Maji's friend Yuri.
Yep.
And they're both just kind of adorable little girls. Yuri has this has a gun that is actually a camera.
Yes.
I mean, the first time you see her, she's pointed at somebody. She says freeze and then pulls the trigger, and then like a camera sound goes off. And my thought was, that's not going to end well at some point in this show.
Yes.
I mean, really?
Now I've seen that gun before, though.
Mm-hmm.
One of the kids in Serial Experiments Lane had a similar device, but it also accessed the internet.
Did it end well for him? All I'm saying is that in a show,
it wasn't as important.
Okay.
No, in this show, this was one of I don't remember his name, but Tchaikovsky's loaded gun, whatever.
Tchaikovsky's gun.
Tchaikovsky's gun.
Mm-hmm.
Just says, if you show a loaded gun in Act 1, it needs to go off in Act 3.
I probably just got the name wrong, but Chekhov's gun.
Chekhov's gun.
If you show a loaded gun, if there's a gun on the mantle in Act 1, it better damn well be used in Act 3.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. I actually had somebody tell me about that when she was giving me feedback for my book. When I was
on the first draft?
No, for beta reader, when I sent it out to beta readers, and she said that this right here is like Chekhov's gun, and it better be important later on. And I was just like, this is the random ramblings of a 14-year-old girl as she's trying to keep her mind distracted from the chores she's trying to do. This is not Chekhov's gun in the slightest. And I actually brought it up in my writing group, and they're just like, I don't think she fully understands what Chekhov's gun actually is. So, but anyway, anyway, they have this birthday party. There's a robot who helps him out, Mrs. Hudson or something like that.
Yeah.
And
reminds you a little bit of Rosie.
Yeah, a little bit of Rosie
from the Jetsons.
She's nowhere near as cool as Rosie, though. Mrs. Hudson is just this very, very basic robot.
She's a docile, obedient robot who's a fun little companion and not nearly as sassy or as amazing as Rosie.
Yeah. Anyway, they have this birthday party for Yuri. Not for Yuri, for Maji, and Yuri sings a song for her.
And there's
Derrida.
There's just a complete absence of dramatic tension.
Yeah, Derrida gives her her favorite flowers. Her dad gives her her locket. A locket.
I thought it was a pocket watch.
It might be a pocket watch.
I think it's a pocket watch.
Well, we've never seen it open before.
We haven't, but the general shape of it's perfectly round on a single chain.
Yeah, you're probably right, but my mind registered it as a locket for some reason.
Okay.
But anyway, maybe it's because I finished Castlevania. And there's some lockets in Castlevania.
I haven't finished Castlevania, but I had just seen one of those memes about the pocket watch that the Elric brothers had.
Oh, gosh.
And so I identified it as a pocket watch.
Okay.
When I looked at it. So
never forget.
Never forget.
Anyway.
Because the 5th of November.
Gosh. Anyway. So they have this birthday party and nothing really happens. And then The girls go off. Maji just goes to walk Yuri home, and then the two dads, or not the two dads, what's his name? Derrida and Nathan are sitting down having a drink, and Nathan says, well, what are you going to do next? You know, like, after you're done with this project with the robots, so after we fix the robots, what's next for you? And he's like, well, I don't really know. And Nathan's like, well, how about you help me with my project? And Nathan's like, that time travel thing? No, thank you. I don't want to waste my time. And Nathan gets upset at him because the time travel thing is based off of
his idea.
Derrida's ideas and his thesis from when he was a student. For some reason, Derrida just says, look, the last time I tried to do that, I lost a chunk of my childhood memories. I want nothing more to do with it. And Nathan gets mad and slams the drink down just as Maji comes home.
Yeah.
And
from walking Yuri home.
And Maji and then I keep forgetting his name.
Nathan?
Derrida. And Derrida are outside. He says, do you want to show me where you're gonna plant the flowers? She says, okay. They go outside. She says, when spring comes along, I'm gonna plant them here. It's Christmas right now, end of the year. And they he has a conversation with her, and she says, well, how come you don't want to help Dad with his experiments? I think it'd be really good for you. They're based off of your research. It's like, have you read them? Yeah, I've read your research. Your research is really, really good. This is coming from an 8-year-old girl.
Yeah.
Okay. She says, he hands her the key that he meant to give Nathan, and says, please give this to your dad.
Yes.
And then he walks off, and he's, are you gonna join my dad? Are you gonna help him? Maybe, type thing, as he's walking off. And then she says something about, you should never give up on your dreams, or something like that. And then he goes off, and it cuts to the dad's home. It cuts to his dad, Derrida's dad's home. His name is Jacques, or Jacques, or something like that. He stands up and turns around and sees a gun in his face, and the gun goes off.
Yeah.
And then we go to Derrida's home, and his cell phone's going off, and he wakes up, and Nathan's saying, get up, we have to run, we have to go right now. Yes. And he's asking why, and he says, it's because the robots, they're already out there. They're already been militarized, they're already out there fighting. There's nothing we can do about it. They're trying to silence us. And so they're driving through the streets, and Nathan's a very bad driver. I mean, he crashes a couple of times getting Derrida's place.
I just remember thinking, that this is subtle.
Mm-hmm. But they try to escape, and Nathan says that Maji's at Yuri's place. She'll be safe there.
Well, Maji was... Apparently, right after that, Maji had conducted one of their experiments and was unconscious. She had conducted one of those time travel experiments and was unconscious in the hospital, but she was going to be staying with Yuri's family.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And then it's revealed that Nathan never got the card from her. Never got the card. And then they realize we need to go back and get it.
And Nathan, rather than doing a 3-point turn, he's in this massive van, and he just tries to flip around in it. He obviously has no idea what he's doing, and so he flips the van. It tumbles several times.
Ends up upside down.
Derrida leaves the van as he's trying to get Nathan, but as soon as he gets out of the van, lights turn on, and we see Andre there with armed men. And he's saying, in a fit of jealousy, Derrida killed his father, and then trying to escape with his lab partner Nathan, they got into an argument, and he killed Nathan. And then out of grief, he killed himself. That's what's going to be in the news tomorrow. And he tries to go get Nathan, but Nathan says, "Run, just go, get out of here, go, leave me."
And that's where he shouts, "Take care of Maji," before the car blows up.
Take care of Maji. Well, what happens is that Derrida is about to go to the car when suddenly he sees a vision of a little girl in a red dress. And this little girl looks exactly like Maji. Okay. This is the first time he sees it.
Yeah, I just thought it was a white dress, but I could be wrong.
No, it's a red dress.
Okay.
Every time she's popped up, it's been a red dress.
Okay.
But she looks at him and like doesn't say anything, but he's just kind of stuck looking at her.
Yeah. And she's slightly different from how we'd expect her. Her eyes are purple instead of...
Her eyes are like shimmering purple.
Shimmering purple instead of the dark blue that they normally are. Or black.
I think it's black. But anyways...
And her hair's a little different and kind of floating with the effect going on around her.
And as soon as she disappears, that's when the van blows up. And the force knocks him back. And... just putting 2 and 2 together, she showed up to keep him from getting too close to the van and getting killed by the explosion.
Yes.
And he gets knocked down a hill, falls down into a forest below. The soldiers are trying to find him, or the guards are trying to find him, and then he sees the girl again.
Yeah, he's running away from them, sees the girl again, falls to where she is, and then falls into some kind of ventilation shaft.
A ventilation shaft that leads to an abandoned laboratory where they were
deep underground.
Deep underground, where they were working on cryogenic freezing. And we know this because he stumbles into one of their...
Yeah, he's injured, he's tired, he decides to lie down, and then suddenly he's strapped into this cryogenic tube, holds him in, and then goes up, going for the default amount of time, 10 years.
Yep. And that's where the episode ends, with him being trapped there, frozen for 10 years. Episode 2 starts, and we see a girl in black approaching the tube, and this girl leaves a note and the pocket watch on the cryogenic tube, and then she leaves.
Yeah. We don't see who. We just see her side, and her hand, and that's it.
Though I will say right now, I'm kind of annoyed that we have no idea what's in the note. I mean, it might not be a note. It might be a handkerchief that she put there to keep the pocket watch protected against the metal. Because we do see when he comes out, he pushes his hand against the metal of the device,
and
it decays. It's probably because of the extreme cold that he was under. So it could be that she was protecting it against the cold. I don't know. Yeah. To me, it looked like a piece of paper, not a handkerchief.
With how it seemed like a folded piece of paper, so you'd think there'd be a note on it.
But anyways, he kind of stumbles out and he leaves, and he gets to the nearest city, but the nearest city is in ruins.
It's absolutely devastated.
And he's absolutely devastated because he has no idea what's going on, but he sees these robots.
Yeah.
And these robots, and in episode 1, when Nathan's talking about the robots, we see an image of, like he said, I watched the news of the war, and I saw one of our robots there, and it was a robot that had like a horn on its head and glowing red eyes and stuff. And then we see these robots, only they are much more skeletal. They look like they've been out fighting for a long time. They're falling apart. It had a very Terminator feel to it, where they look like they were walking around like skeletons with red glowing eyes.
Yes.
He suddenly becomes an action hero, and when it comes to the ability of avoiding bullets,
he clumsily runs away. These things, who knows how long they've been malfunctioning, because their targeting systems are way off, and they're just kind of missing him entirely,
or something. I don't really know.
So,
but he was protected by plot armor, and I'm just teasing. But
he's running away. He hides behind some cover. His cover's blown. He runs away some more. Trips, falls. One of the robots is about to kill him.
This robot's got a sword on its wrist rather than a gun. He's about to stab him,
and then one of the reasons we really like to watch anime is some of the imaginative ways that they do things. And the gun that hits this robot does something incredibly cool. It passes through him, and then I don't know if it's part of the projectile or if its own innards are hyper heated, explode out, and then rapidly cool again.
I think it's the projectile. That's my guess. Because every time he shot, there's a man.
Every time he shoots one of these robots, and I didn't see it happen to like a wall or anything. It's just like when it hits the robots, from the wound, from both the exit and entry wound,
piping hot
metal, piping hot metal shoots out, rapidly cools in these crystalline structures, and then sometimes they shatter.
And sometimes he shoots the robots several times. Sometimes when he only needs to shoot the robots once. But anyways, this is where we meet the next character, and
Vidal.
And this is Vidal. This is Vidal, and Vidal is what is called a destruct or a demolition man.
Mm-hmm.
He's a man who will take on any job as long as he's getting paid for it.
Yes, he's a mercenary.
And he says, "It looks like you're in trouble. I can take you to the nearest settlement, but it's going to cost you 200." And he's like, 200 what? I don't understand what's going on. What's happening? Anyway, he agrees to pay 200 whatever, and Vidal brings his car around and puts him in his car, and that's where we meet Vidal's daughter, Mayuka, or is it Mayuki? I forget. I think it's Mayuka.
Mayuka.
And she's this cute little redheaded girl, long red hair. And as they're driving along, they run over a couple other robots. They escape from some other robots.
Mm-hmm.
He's got this really, really cool car. It's like a souped up version of Knight Rider.
Yep, and it has an AI he talks to, and that does analysis.
And I mean like Knight Rider. It's got like, it's black with a bunch of red glowing trim and stuff like that.
We see it in the opening credits that it can do some pretty nifty things in terms of its ability to change shape a little bit to adapt to whatever he's doing. And he clearly is a much, much better driver than Nathan.
Yeah.
It's kind of a night and day. He's in good hands.
Yeah. But what they try to do is they try to scan a chip underneath his arm to charge him money. And apparently that's how people carry their money around these days.
Right.
And they're like, well, wait, no, there's nothing there. And then the car says, maybe it's an old chip. Try that other device. But they don't find anything. He says, well, how long have you been asleep? And then he explains to him, I've been asleep for 10 years. I have no idea what's going on. Anyway, he convinces them to take him to the city.
Yes.
Because he's trying to find Maji. He made a promise to protect Maji. And so he goes and he goes to Maji's house.
Right.
And inside of Maji's house, and this is another reason why, like, I wasn't too thrilled or impressed with this show, because we were already seeing flashbacks to episode 1 and episode 2. And I was just like, you guys are stretching it thin enough already. But he went into the house and he saw a bunch of scenes that he just saw, and I'm just like, really, guys?
It's, again, there's a pacing problem with this show. And really, you could, I think episode 1, I don't think they needed as much with episode 1 as they did. I mean, imagine watching Futurama, but having all of the information about the dog in the first episode. You don't need that much that early on.
Well, in season 1, like, I was going to say is bad enough, but that's not true. Season 1 of Futurama is great. It's just, season 2 is when Futurama really picks up and becomes its own thing.
Right.
Season 1 is the weakest of the original 4 seasons, is what I'm trying to say.
Okay.
But yeah, I know what you're saying.
I think they maybe hyper front loaded the first episode with too much exposition, and they could have easily done flashbacks to kind of establish. I mean, they didn't need to seed it with so much. I think.
Yeah. There's definitely some pacing issues with this show, but anyways, he goes up and real fast, before they go to the house, we kind of learned that the world has been overrun by these robots. And the men who made these robots became super rich.
Yes.
And he is hesitant Derrida is then hesitant to tell them he's one of the people who made those robots.
Yeah.
Because obviously the world's gone to hell, and he's wondering if they're going to blame him for it.
Right.
But anyways, they get to...
But eventually he does. He eventually lets them know that this is the situation. And he thinks that there's a way to stop these robots entirely, but
he needs to find Maji, because Maji has the key to help stop the robots.
Yes.
But he goes to... Anyways...
so he's taken back to the city where they are, and they go to the manor house where Nathan lived.
Or the house where Nathan lived, and he goes through and he sees all the images and stuff. And then he goes up to the roof, and he's kind of reminiscing a bit when we hear a gun click, and it goes into his back. And this girl says, "Don't turn around. Don't move. What are you doing here?" And then he just kind of says to himself... And he recognizes the voice. And he just says... well, I don't really think that you can shoot me. Yuri, after all, that's just a camera you have in my back. And then a gun goes off as he turns around.
End of episode 2.
Was that the end of episode 2?
I'm pretty sure that's the end of episode 2, and episode 3 starts with a bullet casing dropping on the floor.
I don't know. No. Episode 2 doesn't end that way.
Well, there is more to it than that, but I think that happened earlier. I thought it really ended on that point.
I don't think it does. I'm pretty sure.
Now, there's another scene where Andre, the boss.
Well, that's what we're about to get to.
Yes.
We get to that scene, and this is still in episode 2 because episode 3 ends with the reveal of what happened to Magi.
Yeah.
Magi.
Yeah.
That's the end of episode 2.
Yeah.
So she shoots him, and then we cut to Andre, and Andre gets an announcement that, look who's alive still, and he's like, that's impossible. Right. He can't be alive. Episode 3 starts with him hiring the woman to kill him.
No, I thought episode 2 ended with him hiring the woman to kill him.
Anyways, this show has pacing issues. But he then turns, like, the gun casing then drops to the ground, and like, after that scene with him of him learning Andre learning that Derrida is still alive, turns around and Yuri says, next time I won't miss. Who are you? What are you doing here?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. And then Derrida says that I'm, it's me, it's Derrida, I'm alive. She's like, that's impossible. Derrida killed Nathan, and then he killed himself. So the news
I was framed.
And he screams that I was framed, I never did that. And he says, I need to find Magi, where's Magi? And she says, it's not possible to find Magi. Magi's dead. And then they go to the grave.
Yes. And that's in episode 3.
Is that episode 3?
The beginning of episode 3 is when they go to the grave.
I honestly don't remember.
Yeah.
I just watched it today.
It does blur together a bit.
Anyway, that's right. Because the woman's been hired while they're at the grave.
Yeah.
Before they go to the grave, the woman was hired to kill him. Because that's right. She shows up at the grave. That's right.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Now what happens is she's wearing long black hair with when she goes to meet Andre, the billionaire, and he starts praising her, and she's not listening to any of his sweet talking. And then he reveals the target and shows a great big image of Derrida. And it's at that point that I'm wondering exactly who this assassin is, because she pulls a gun on the billionaire, on Andre. And I'm like, ooh, is this secretly Magi? Is the thought that went through my mind at that moment is like, is she going to kill this guy right now because he wanted her to kill somebody who she doesn't want to kill?
I don't think it's Magi, but I think that it's somebody. Not. I think it's somebody who knows who Derrida is. But even after that, she's like, payment up front, and it's like payment up front and whatever you want.
Yeah.
And she goes off to kill him, and then we see them at the gravesite, and he is he's sobbing, wondering what to do because he's already lost.
Yeah.
He's
already failed in his promise to try to take care of Magi. And while there, she arrives with the flowers that were Magi's favorite.
Yeah. Donna shows up with the flower. The woman's name is Donna. She walks up with the flowers that were Magi's favorite. And Yuri recognizes those flowers. And
I didn't recognize her at first because instead of having long black hair like she did in her meeting with the billionaire, she has very short white hair. The defining characteristic was like some markings around her right eye.
She had markings around her I think it was her left eye.
Her left eye.
But she had markings around her eye, and she's got white hair back, and it's back in a ponytail.
And much shorter than the long princess cut that she had.
I don't even remember what her hair was in that scene. I just wanted to be done with it. But anyways, she shows up and they have an action scene, gunfight, whatever.
And Vidal starts protecting her.
Like,
get to the car. He actually gives the car's name at that point.
Yeah, I can't remember. Well, he named
Gideon or something like that.
He named the car before as well when he addressed the AI. So that's who he's talking about, the AI. So they get Yuri and Derrida run to the car. They get into the car, and the car starts driving on its own. And then Vidal shows up, and he starts cursing them out, saying stuff like, "You really, you have Donna of whatever the nickname he gives her.
I think the White Smoke.
Donna the White Smoke is on your tail.
Protecting you is going to cost you a lot more.
Yeah, protecting is going to cost you a lot more. She's a lot more dangerous than I am, pal," type thing. He's like, "Fine, whatever. I'll pay anything. Just put it on my tab." And so they drive off, and as they're driving off, he and Vidal is driving hard and far, and he's trying to get as far away from them as he can. And Yuri's just like, "What do you guys look? We've driven plenty of distance. Let's go ahead and we can slow down now." And then suddenly a hovercopter appears, and it's Donna piloting it, and she's shooting them with machine guns, like with a Vulcan machine gun and missiles and stuff.
And there's a great big chase scene going through a rocky terrain as he's making his way towards a tunnel.
And the car goes into off-road mode, and by off-road mode, I mean it drives up a wall the same way
the little Beetle does. And
I was about to say Castle of Cagliostro, or Lupin III's little car drives up a wall as well. Only his is a bit more high-tech than Lupin III's, and Lupin III's was more for comedic effect.
The impossibility of that comedic effect is just...
beautiful.
the things Lupin can do.
Man, I want to go home and just watch Lupin III so I can wash the taste of this anime out of my mouth.
Okay.
It's not that bad. But he says, "Is there a cache nearby?" Talking to his AI, and the AI says, "Yes, there's one 4 kilometers away." And so they go to this or safe house or whatever.
Yeah.
And so they drive towards it, and they go into this tunnel, and then she blows up the tunnel.
Yes.
Sends in multiple missiles to collapse the tunnel. And she just kind of flies off after that.
And then a scene that I actually really enjoyed is Andre's watching on a view monitor her actions of blowing up this tunnel. And what's happening is he's shaking, holding this little teacup, and the robot in the room goes, "Spill imminent. Warning, milk tea will spill. Milk tea has spilled."
As he spills it on himself, and he slams his hand down.
And he's like, "What are you doing?" "My cake!"
My cake.
He doesn't even notice that he slams his own cake until his hand is covered in frosting.
Anyway, he so
he's a buffoon.
He's a buffoon. But the thing is, he's not like a lovable buffoon. He's just...
We can't... We're tolerating him because of his buffoonery, but we can't wait to see him dead.
Yeah. It's not like the lovable buffoons that we have in other animes. Like the bad guy in El Hazard.
Yeah.
He's a buffoon. You can't stand him, but he's a lovable comedic buffoon. As opposed to this guy.
He's somebody you love to see suffer.
Yeah. Well, and like the scene with the tea and the cake and stuff, to me that kind of feels like they're trying to make him a lovable buffoon. But with the stuff he's already done, I'm just like, there's no way I'm going to love this guy.
No.
Stop trying. Just let us embrace the fact that he's, he's the bad guy. That he is a horrible person.
Yeah.
Embrace that fact. Stop trying to redeem him in our eyes. Anyway, so they repair the car in the
safe house.
In the safe house, and they decide to go ahead and take Yuri home.
Yes.
And so there's the other end of the tunnel is totally fine, so they go ahead and they drive through that tunnel, and they go back to the city where Yuri was living.
Yes.
We come across a kind of a post-apocalyptic market place out in the streets. People are selling food.
It's a bit, it's street vendors. Street vendors have filled up a street that was never designed for street vendors, but is now a post-war torn area.
And they kind of explain that, survivors just kind of gathered in this place, and so we're making our lives here now. But there's a scene of Vidal and his daughter buying weaponry and books and things like that. Vidal's daughter loves reading books, children's books and stuff.
So he gets quite a haul.
Yeah, it gets quite a haul. But they go to Yuri's apartment, and she says this is where, and she's slowly starting to believe that
Derrida is who
he says he is.
Yeah.
Because he remembers things that other people shouldn't be able to remember. And when he was crying at the graveside, she realized that those were real tears, and not fake ones.
She's choosing to believe him, but
and she's wondering, and like one of her questions is, how can this stuff be so shocking to you? And he says, to me, that birthday party was yesterday.
Yeah.
So everything just changed so quickly for him. And anyway, she takes them to the room where she and Maji were staying. Her parents left the country when the war broke out in their country, but she and Maji decided they wanted to stay, so they lived together for a while. She starts showing him pictures of Maji and stuff like that.
She still has the gun handle camera.
Shows him all these pictures of Maji from the party and stuff. And she says to him, and he's like, well, now I don't know what to do, because, she had the key. She was the one who had the key that we needed in order to fix the robots, and now it's gone. So there's nothing we can do. And then Yuri says, actually, she's alive. And he says, wait, what? No, she's alive. I lied to you, and the reason I lied to you is because she disappeared on me last fall. I've been trying to find her, but I can't find her anywhere. She
set up a fake tombstone.
In order to keep people from asking her questions, because she figures people are looking for her, she set up a fake tombstone and has been telling everybody that she's dead. But she has no idea where to find her.
Right.
And so
they're parting ways.
Mm-hmm.
And he's leaving when he sees, for yet another time.
He actually sees her another time. I forget when, but she, the girl in the red dress, he asks her what her name is, and she responds, and she says Anji.
Anji.
Mm-hmm. Anji.
Yes.
So she, and so Anji shows up.
Anji shows up again and points up to the window.
She's trying to say something, but she can't. And he says, what is it? Can you not say anything? And then she points up back to the apartment.
And he realizes something's going to happen. Mm-hmm. And so it's very clearly established in these first 3 episodes that this Anji is some kind of time traveler who is showing up at the right place at the right time to guide Derrida's path.
Mm-hmm. And we forgot to mention this. After Derrida and Yuri go into the apartment, we see Vidal again in the car, and he sees a bunch of thug-like looking people scoping out the building. And then Derrida, after he sees Anji, and she points at the excuse me,
and she points up to the third story.
He points to the third story apartment
of this building.
He turns around and starts yelling for Yuri, and then we see a grenade being dropped. And
there's a big explosion, fire and flame coming out the windows, and there's Yuri hanging from the third story window. And then she falls.
She jumped out just in time to avoid the flames, or to avoid the explosion, but she doesn't have a good grip, and she falls. And had he not started running when he did, he would not have been able to catch her, and the way she was falling, she would have snapped her neck when she landed.
Yes.
So, but he caught her, saved her life, and they get, and then suddenly Vidal pulls up with the car, and he tells them about the suspicious people who were at the building, and they get out of Dodge, they get out of town.
Yeah, they do.
And they go to another campsite, and in that campsite, Yuri says, "I want to come with you. I want to find Maji."
Yeah.
And Vidal says, "Fine, as long as he pays for it." And
fine, put it on my tab.
And Derrida's like, "Fine, put it on my tab, whatever." And yeah, that's the end of episode 3.
Yeah.
Real fast though, before that, after they leave the town, we see Donna watching them leave town, and then we have a phone, and then
she has a phone conversation with
Andre. And Andre gets up, leaves a meeting, and he is. Let's play Spot the main character, because everybody in that room was just a normal black business suit with black hair, but he's got a purple business suit with yellow hair.
Yes.
And I'm just like, okay, whatever. But he leaves the room and he answers the phone, and she says, if you're going to send people other than me, I'm going to kill them. if they get in the way between me and my target, I'm going to kill them too. And he's like, what are you talking about? I didn't send anybody else, obviously lying. And she's like, this is my only warning, and hangs up.
Wishy.
Mm-hmm. But anyway, so that's the first 3 episodes.
It is. Now, I realize that you're kind of bored with it, but I'm going to keep watching it.
Okay.
It's still airing. They've got 10 episodes on Crunchyroll right now.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to give it a try. I realize that it's not the fast-paced stuff that you're more acclimatized.
I'm fine with slower paced stuff. It's just it doesn't feel like I love
we may have been spoiled with really good quality content this season.
Possibly,
because we've got some really good stuff coming out, and this maybe isn't as up to snuff. You know, it's not in the top.
Well, Mushishi, that's a very, very laid back at its own pace show.
It is, and I couldn't get into it.
Fine with that.
Yeah.
If it's just the quality of it. It just doesn't have anything to really grab my attention.
Okay.
It just feels very, very slow for the purpose of dragging the story out and making as many episodes as they can, as opposed to being concise and telling us the story that they're trying to tell.
Right.
So, yeah, for me, I was bored for the first 3 episodes. It wasn't enough to hold my interest.
Okay.
So... But if you want to go ahead and give it a try, Again, it's on Crunchyroll. And let us know what you guys think about it. Go ahead and post some comments if you're listening to this on YouTube, or just go ahead and add us on Twitter. Let us know what you think about the show. Or, if you
comment directly on our website.
If you think I'm completely wrong and that it's a fantastic show, let me know. I'd love to hear your opinions. Anyway, we will not be having a show next week. Okay? I am going to be traveling for my day job. I'm going to be in Pennsylvania for a week visiting people out there. I work for a company that makes software for car dealerships. So I'm going to be working with car dealerships face-to-face all next week. So we will not be having an episode next week. We're going to have a bye week. So in 2 weeks, we're going to be watching, and a lot of people have said a lot of good things about this show. We're going to be watching Planet With.
Planet With?
Planet With. That's the entire name of the show. And this is a mecha anime from the point of view of the villain. The villain is the main character. And in the first episode, he beats the strongest of the heroes. Because it's 5 heroes and they all summon mechs, and it's like kind of a mech / magical girl type thing where they transform into their mechs. And he beats the strongest hero in the first episode.
Nice.
Anyway, Soya Kuroi is a high schooler living a peaceful life despite having no memories of his past. One day, however, his town is attacked by one of the mysterious nebula weapons. Together with his cat-like sensei and the gothic Lolita Ginkgo, Soya gets dragged into a battle against 7 superheroes who protect the town. What is Soya's reasons to fight? The answer lies in his memories. So I've heard nothing but great things about this show. So... Again, we're not going to be watching it next week because we're not going to be having an episode, but we will be having an episode in 2 weeks.
In 2 weeks.
And that will be the week of Thanksgiving that we'll be recording that episode. So...
Is that close?
We're really close.
Okay.
Well, tomorrow's already the 2nd Thursday of November. Thanksgiving's the 4th.
That's true. That's true. That's what happens when the first day of the month is a
November.
Is a Thursday.
First day of course, the first day of the month is in November. Anyway, so that's it for 3 episodes in. Let's go ahead and move on to recommendation of the week, and it's your turn this week.
Okay, this week I'm going to recommend an anime that we both enjoyed called Tanaka-kun is Always Listless.
That anime is delightful, and that's another one that is slow and at its own pace, but it's done well.
Yeah,
it doesn't feel
interesting.
plodding.
It's interesting. They introduce things slowly, step by step. They're not overloading you, but the pacing's good, though.
Well, the pacing is perfect for the main character, and let's go ahead and explain who the main character is.
Okay, so Tanaka-kun is a kid who's always trying to nap. He never cares about anything going on around him, and he ends up becoming this kind of leader of a gang of friends who admire him for various reasons, even though he's not trying to do anything admirable at all. The one girl falls absolutely head over heels in love with him because he's so cool and she's just so peppy, and she wants to learn how to be cool like him. And so she starts calling him sensei.
I don't think she falls in love with him. I think it's just admiration She wants to be more like him.
Yes.
The girl who falls in love with him is the prettiest girl in the school, and the reason she falls in love with him is because she has a habit of letting her hair down, as it were, after school's over. She's very prim, very proper, very nicely dressed, and then after school's over and most of the students have left, she'll put on her glasses, pull up her skirt so it's nice and comfortable, throw off her shoes and just be a slob, complete slob.
She goes into slob mode when she's working.
Mm-hmm. And I think she puts her hair back in a ponytail or something just to get it out of her face. She runs into Tanaka. Is that his name?
When other people see her like that, they don't recognize
her at all. They do not see her for her. And that's one of her guilty pleasures, is that she's able to go around school and nobody recognizes her. There's just a student nobody's ever seen before. Tanaka-kun sees her and recognizes her immediately. And he's just like, oh, hi, and says her name, her real name. And she freaks out and has no idea what's going on. Well, in her mind...
And then, he has ammunition against her. And he could ruin her entire school career by exposing how she actually is.
And so, the next day at school, she's super worried that people are going to know that he's spread all these rumors and that her life is over, but nobody says a thing. No one.
Did he call in sick today?
No, he's there.
No, he's here. Did he not tell anyone?
The
thing is, the truth is, he cares so little that he doesn't realize it's a secret.
Yeah, he just doesn't care. But the best part is that she starts falling in love with him because she thinks that he can see the real her no matter what she dresses as. And for her, that's just wonderful. And so she starts falling in love with Tanaka-kun.
Yep.
Whereas we learned the real reason that he was able to recognize her, it's because of her bust size. No one in the school has the size of chest that she does.
He's so horrible.
And his best friend, who's known him since I think kindergarten, says, so how were you able to recognize her? Oh, it's because nobody has a chest size like her in the entire school. And he's just like, and his friend just says, absolutely never tell her that. Tanaka-kun's List, this is a delightful show.
One of my favorite scenes, I talked about it in a different episode of this podcast, was when he's playing Othello with the girl that's trying to beat him.
Yeah.
He throws the match, but he throws the match while spelling the word white in kanji in the middle of the Othello board.
And she thinks she's won. She's like, I've won, but I feel like I lost the moral victory. Yeah, that show's great. That show's fantastic. Tanaka-kun is always listless.
So go ahead and give that a watch.
It's on Crunchyroll, isn't it?
It is.
Okay. All right. Now it's time for our creator shout-out, and it's my turn this week. And I'm going to go ahead and cheat a little bit. I'm going to give a shout-out to everybody doing NaNoWriMo this month. NaNoWriMo, for those of you who don't know what it is National Novel Writing Month. There's a lot of national things going on in November. It's No Shave November. A bunch of things going on.
No Money November.
No Money November. Saw that on Twitter today. But NaNoWriMo's National Novel Writing Month, and the goal is to write 50,000 words in 30 days. And that's a lot.
It is a lot.
For people who aren't professional authors. Professional authors, they churn that out all the time because as long as they're producing, they churn it out all the time.
Yes.
But for people who have day jobs, that takes a lot of time and a lot of commitment. I've participated several times. I've won a couple of times. The novel that I published in September, The Devil from the River, that started off as a NaNoWriMo project. And that's one of the times that I won when I used that as my NaNoWriMo project. But I turned it around, kept working with it, and it eventually became a novel unto itself.
The theory being that if you could put 50,000 words of a story down in 1 month, and then you have 2 months to go back over it, and don't worry so much about your first draft. But you come back and edit it and do your second drafts, then
never try to publish your nano novel. Never. Unless you've worked on it a lot to fix it. Because you write a lot of words fast, and those words aren't always good. As a matter of fact, most of the time they're bad.
Right.
But the main thing about Nano is that it teaches you to write every single day. That if you want to be a writer, you have to write every single day, no excuses. You need to. It is your job. It teaches you the importance of it in Nano. So there's a bunch of links, like NaNoWriMo.org is the website where you can go and see all the rules for Nano. You can sign up for an account there, keep track of your word count. They've got a Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and Instagram. All those links are going to be posted on our website if anyone's interested in it. But yeah, I have a shout out to everybody participating in NaNoWriMo. It's a huge thing, a lot of work, and when you complete your 50,000 words, you're going to feel amazing. So yeah, that's my shout out this week.
Fantastic.
All right. Thanks for listening in this week. If you listened in on YouTube, please feel free to like this episode and subscribe to our channel. If you like what we do and want to support us, please spread the word of our podcast and even support us on Patreon. Where can they find us on social media?
On our site, whittakerweekly.com, we currently have the links to our Facebook page, our Twitter account, Patreon page, and our YouTube channel. We encourage all our listeners to follow us on the social media platform of their preference. And if there's one we're not on yet, please reach out to us on one of the ones we mentioned, and we'll broaden our scope to include you.
All right. Our artwork was provided by Ben Coombs.
And the music you're hearing for our opening and closer is Dry Clock by Brasmataz.
They've their music is up for free. I forget what website it's on. But I downloaded the entire album, and it's just a blast to listen to. It's just awesome big band jazz music. So if you like that stuff, give their album a listen. It's amazing.
All right.
Okay, well, that's it for this week. I've been Andrew.
I've been Lee.
And this has been Whittaker Weekly. Have a great week.